Why is it that UK train drivers are constantly on strike? Why UK train drivers constantly want more money? Why do they want more money? Because everyone wants more money and they know that anytime they go on strike and ask for more money, they are going to get it because they'll hold the Londoners as hostages. Okay, now it says train drivers in the UK are set to stage a fresh round of strikes in the long-running dispute over pay. The ASLEF union has announced a rolling program of walkouts between 2 and 8 December with different train companies affected on each day. However, train drivers have recently accepted a pay deal that will see the end of more than 2 years of strike in action in England, Scotland and Wales. And you're thinking, wow, that is a long time. 2 years, and according to the BBC, is just they've accepted a pay after striking for 2 years. And then recently they said, okay, we're going on strike again. And the Independent said, train drivers seek to put dent in the cost of living in pay talks. And then Mail Online railed strike chaos. Train managers set to work out every Sunday until May. So this is recent. This is in the new year in January, and they are at it again. And then BBC, union to ballot overhaul train drivers sacking. And then you have train drivers to demand bigger pay deal in new headache for Labour, according to MSN. And then you have the Independent again. When are the next train strikes? It's just like it's becoming a national sport. All right. Now, Londoners are not happy about that. And some of the comments online was like, I know, as a leftist, I'm supposed to support all strikes, but I do find it hard to get on board with this one. The average train driver salary is 58,000 to 69,000 a year, whereas the national average is 35,000. Yes, you are responsible for the lives of lots of people on board, but trains are far safer than buses. Automation is becoming far more viable, and even at the moment, someone else sort out switches to the trains end up in the right place. Or anyway, so basically, someone saying, yeah, I do agree, but they're already well paid. Why are they never happy? And even some of the jobs they used to do, like the switching on the lines, have been automated. So their life is much easier when compared to before. And he continues, he says, I work in an industry which has also had strikes, and we have been arguing over our average salary going from 30k to 33k when it has been rising way below inflation for a decade. I'm willing to discuss this and have my mind changed, but I really struggle to empathize with these strikes. Yes, and that is the sentiment a lot of people have, that when you're looking at it from the inside inwards, from the outside inwards, you're like, what's going on? I don't know what it means to be a train driver, if it's a bit more stressful than maybe a bus driver, or maybe I wouldn't even compare it to plane driver pilots, because I mean that's a different league. But here, people just don't understand why it's just constantly never happy when they're already well paid. Another comment says, daily reminder: UK train drivers are paid over twice the average Western European train drivers and almost twice as much as the second highest paid Danish train drivers. Their base salary on a 35-hour week before the latest blackmail. I like that word, blackmail, that increased their salary by around 10% was 70k, which rapidly increases to 100k above with some overtime, all for a job that requires no skills, no education. All right, there's a bit of exaggeration here. It does come across as blackmail when they're already well paid and they're constantly on strike. They're never happy, it seems. Probably your average driver doesn't really care. He's happy with his job. But then the union, I think the union is basically flexing, because that's what they're there for. If they're not constantly demanding something, why would you want to have a union? So that I don't think everyone is all the drivers are really really in with the strikes. But if they win something and you get more money, well, more power to them. But it's just like it comes across as blackmail. But then the final line about all for a job that requires no skills, no education. I don't think it's all about that. It's a big responsibility. If something goes wrong on one of those lines, and it impacts the lives of a lot of people. So don't really push it. But I could sense the frustration people have about this. Now, then someone said, sounds like we need to get on with automation and introduce driverless trains. And I think this is absolutely interesting. It just goes to show you something that I think the oligarchy and big companies have actually figured out, that if they're able to automate a lot of the things they do, they'll be able to get rid of all these humans that's just making life miserable, striking, wanting more pay holidays, wanting more rights and whatever. So now I think this comment about driverless is an interesting thing, because it goes to show that if the reason why in the good old days of the mining, when people would go underground and mine, and it was dangerous, and then they complained that all these immigrants are coming in to take the job, and then after a few studies they discovered that no, it's not immigration, it is actually automation, that they introduced big machines that could dig further and do a lot more work, and that means they needed less people in the mining industry, and then climate change and people moving away from fossil fuel, it just meant that it wasn't possible, it was no longer profitable as it used to be. Now, with trains now, people are saying, yeah, I'm paying for my public transport. When I get there, I don't want people who are already overpaid to be on strike. I don't really care too much for that. So driverless automation, but then it's basically people voting against their own interest. That the more automation you have, the less job you would have. But it's just like AI now. People are worried about that, especially in the tech world, that AI is going to take over the world and take over everything. But yeah, it's still a long way away. Anyway, now the verdict.co.uk said, despite the schadenfreude from the left, there are already autonomous lines in the smoke. Canada. The Docklands Light Railway has operated driverless trains since 1987, although it still has a trained human operator on board the train to handle customer service, ticket check-in, and to take control in the event of an emergency. Okay, so you see that they've introduced it, but then it was probably a new line that was built purposely for that. And you would have thought, okay, if someone on the internet is commenting about driverless train, wouldn't the mayor of London or even the government to actually think about that, to just stop, let's automate it and get rid of all these strikers? Well, hold your horses. Apparently, it's not that easy. And Metro.co.uk had a story about this, saying the driverless train would far outweigh the cost, citing cities like Paris, Tokyo, Barcelona, Dubai as an example of places with driverless trains. But then it says in London, the London Underground system and trains is just so old that it's just like you almost get the feeling that it was even before the dinosaurs came into existence. But anyway, the story continued that it says the feasibility assessment found that the introduction of driverless trains will cost billions of pounds on each line, not even talking about the whole underground system and trains. And then the Mayor of London, Mr. Khan, explained, learning from other metros around the world, particularly Paris, which provided input into the feasibility study they did, the most practicable way of conversion will be for it to coincide with the introduction of new rolling stock, signaling, and platform edge doors at the same time as part of a line upgrade. So I think this basically they're saying yes, it can be done, but then you would need to change a lot of things: the platforms, the signaling, the door system, and basically you might as well just redesign the whole thing, which is going to cost a fortune. And then increasing the drivers' salary will probably be much cheaper. rather than going through the whole upgrade. And that is why London doesn't have a driverless system at the moment because, well, it just costs too much. So for Londoners, you will still have to deal with your money grabbing train drivers for the foreseeable future because there is no other alternative. Is it a blackmail? It does come across like that, but you don't really have a choice.